Hi, this is David Gornoski, host of A Neighbor's Choice and Things Hidden podcast, as well as some of our other programs like Science and You with our chief science advisor, Dr. Yu, and our seed oil survival series that we continue to have great fun unpacking the truth of nutrition. I wanted to give you a quick little message saying we appreciate all the support that we get from our uh, monthly contributors and our one-time donation supporters. And we'd encourage all of you to go to our website, aneighborschoice.com, click on contribute, and make a monthly pledge today, whether it's $1, $5, 15, 20, 50, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter. Just be a part of building this new media project that we've developed to empower and inform, to inspire, to kickstart a scientific renaissance, an anthropological breakthrough and reformation in the church. All these things are possible with your support right now. So make that commitment today and help us keep doing the productions that we have. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about the manosphere and the rise of the Tate world, and we're going to talk about the new article that Surit has published on aneighborschoice.com, and it is called Christ and Masculinity. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Good. Now, are you speaking as the article or as yourself in this moment?
I'm even in the article, I'm speaking as myself.
Oh, I thought at this point you were taking on the voice of the article as if it was an animated entity in itself.
Oh no. That's me.
So let's talk about this article you wrote. Why did you write this story?
Well, I mean,
Were you triggered by the
anyone,
Barbie movie? I noticed you mentioned the Barbie movie in this article. Did that trigger you?
no, I don't think so. I try to be as objective as possible, and there are two extremes that exist in society right now, and one is like the extremely feminine, the feminized, the female centric, and the other is the masculine centric, the extremely masculine. So I would say that this article that I wrote is more addressed to that part of the spectrum, and especially towards that which is considered red pill, and the manosphere it was once dominated by the Tate brothers. So
But they were
right
just
now they're
recycling. They were just recycling content from the pickup artist community that was popular in the 2000s, late 2000s, like 2009
yeah,
and 8.
yeah, I mean this whole thing, I mean, if you can go back to the start of the red pill movement, uh this is one of the weirdest things, because when you say the red pill movement, people will there's a lot of things about what people say it is. One of the things that they say, what a red pill is like a political awakening, which is the most common definition that exists out there. But it originally started out as the kind of the manosphere movement, and it's like more to do with men's rights, and reacting to the dating market outside, and a whole lot of things, divorce rates and all of that, how men get a bad deal uh, when they are facing divorce and all of that. So that's what was originally the red pill movement. And how it sort of evolved is you had these bloggers, podcasters like Rollo Tomasi, and then you've got Kevin Samuels. That's a very famous one.
He
And
died, right? Did he die? Yeah.
yeah, he died not too long ago. So he was very famous for speaking to the black community, the black males, and their messages were more or less like, how you can develop yourself into a quote unquote high value man, right? And what's high value man? Well, it's a lot like how Andrew Tate, people like him define it, kind of like, putting yourself on the upper echelons, on the upper tier of the sexual marketplace, right? Like on the dating marketplace, and getting rich, working out, and working on your quote unquote game. What they mean by game is that in the interactions and the success rate in acquiring uh, dating partners and all of that. So I would say, like, it's my the article, like, the masculinity that's created by Christ is very different from what these people are saying. And what masculinity in the Christian framework means is self-sacrifice primarily. Not self-sacrifice on a very small scale, but on a very radical scale. And this this kind of masculinity that Christ embodies is more effective at changing the trajectory of history, as opposed to the message put out by the manosphere, which is, don't get married, don't take the risk of marriage, just, sleep. It's a really like a lot like the male version of feminism, right? A male version, the male side of the sexual revolution. So they say, like, get as many as body count as possible, and then, if you are going to get married, you settle down, right? So that's Andrew Tate right there. Like, you have to have a high level of body count before you get married. They're completely opposed to the idea of,
I don't
you
think I
be,
don't know enough about Tate, but I don't think he says you have to have it, right? He just says it's cool or you can do it. He doesn't
no,
say you
he says,
have to
yeah.
have that to be married. He just says,
Well,
that's
he
a
doesn't.
sign of high status that you can do it, right? That's.
Well, that's part of their message. He's that's not a optional thing. When you are going to follow their message, that's very mandatory. And it's not just Andrew Tate saying it. It's a lot of this if you go to these dating shows that seem to be blowing up right now. Even this girl, just Pearly Things, she says the same thing. And the logic behind that is uh, that in order to form a relationship with a woman, you have to be experienced with the opposite sex, because women don't like inexperienced men. So that's the reasoning behind it, right? That's like a brief summary of their reasoning behind it. So I don't think Christ, if Christ says anything at all, Christ does not place the value of masculinity first and foremost at the hands of, the dating cycle. Uh, Christ says that Christ died for the sins of the world. So it's completely opposite. It's completely, opposed to each other, and that's primarily what I've tried to explore in this article, is how uh, this retreat of the manosphere, this you know uh, you know falling into the lazy comfort the lazy bubble of this liberalized world is really the manosphere's message, and Christ says, break out of that bubble.
You quote Matthew 10:34-36, where Jesus says, "For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's household." Isn't that interesting that the tension is between generations? The father and
Yeah.
mother are on one. Father is against the son, the daughter is against the mother, daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. So it's a generational thing. You notice that?
Yeah, and it's
It's a
also
generational schism.
it's that, and it's also uh Christ saying what the kind of masculinity that he embodies, what it will do to the world, right? So it's not like you have this very Americana version of masculinity that exists in movies and whatnot, in serials like the picket fence and the grilling with the barbecue and all of that. Like that's the ideal masculine image in American media. But this is like Christ saying that your the way, if you imitate me, you will exceed these boundaries and you will cause chaos. And that's what a lot of great innovators in history have done through their creativity,
But
is
wait a
that
second.
they
I
have
thought
always.
Satan was the author of chaos. Why are we supposed to be doing chaos? And I thought
Well, I mean, like, there are
Jordan
different.
Peterson says that female is the source of chaos, or what, the feminine archetype. So how do you sort those three chaoses differently?
Well, I mean, let's look at the historical impact that Jesus had on this world, right? So did Jesus come here and in his incarnated state, did Jesus make the world a much safer space, or did he make the world a much more dangerous place? I think he was very clear. He himself said that I have come to bring a sword, not peace, right? The verse that you just quoted. So that's in direct opposition to what people like Jordan Peterson may say.
What is he
So
saying? What is he saying that's distinct from that? Just to be clear for the audience and everybody and me.
yeah. Well, Jordan Peterson, when he comments on the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the world." Jordan Peterson says, brings his psychological interpretation and says that what Jesus really means here in the psychological sense is that, uh, you don't have to be a pushover, but, you can keep your sword sheathed, and then the ability to be dangerous, but still, uh, in a sense, being on a leash is is what's equivalent to being meek. So I don't think that's an appropriate interpretation of that text, and it really shows that Jordan Peterson's message, which is, clean up your room and all of that, it's not really addressing the kind of human being that Christ was.
That doesn't he
Christ,
say? Doesn't Jordan say that being strong in the Christian sense is having the potentiality for being dangerous, but refraining from being so? Right? Like you have teeth, but you choose not to bite down on people. So you're not a
yeah,
weak.
but
He says you're not a weak person. You're a person capable of great danger and strength, but you refuse to not throw it around. So I'm trying to be fair to him too, not that we have to agree with everything he's saying, but isn't that kind of what he also says? I just want to parse that
well,
out.
I mean, if you look at most of his message, he is hyper focused on that restraining part, right? It would have been much more effective if he said, "Okay, let loose once in a while," but he doesn't say that. I don't think he says
So
that.
you're saying
I've
you're
bought
saying
hundreds and
that okay. So just to be clear, what you're saying is that his message tends to be play it kind of safe and have a simple, happy
Yeah,
life of
yeah, he
meaning
doesn't
and
challenge. He's very
yeah.
Jungian, the is typical psychologist, messaging. uh he doesn't go after the sacrificial mechanisms. Where is the Jordan Peterson that goes after the military industrial complex?
Well, I tried to get
And
him to do it in my interview with him, and he didn't really
yeah,
want
so
to.
notice, you noticed in your conversation how he retreats constantly back into the psychological sphere, which is like going back into the boundaries, the picket fences and all of that. So my point is that, I mean, of course, you can't be a complete lunatic all the time, as uh, you know anyways, I won't quote that, I won't get the channel banned. But never go full R word. so
Yeah.
so you have to be dangerous, most often than not. And that's what Jesus was. His gospel, ministry was full of him being confrontational with his enemies. It really, showed him, like, pulling back. He was constantly on the attack. And even when he was defensive, he was on the attack, right? So it's not like, that's the kind of thing, I think that is being drained out of the masculine population of the world, is that we're becoming more and more domesticated, right? So, like, the great feminist philosopher Camille Paglia said that, this is one of the hallmarks of a fall of civilization, is that men become more and more like women, and women become more and more like men, right? So, uh, what we can observe from that is, like, when men become more and more like women, they seek comfort, they seek safety. What we can observe from this trend of men becoming more and more like women is that men starting to crave safety, and starting to crave comfort, starting to,
But let's push back on that even too. Let's go with that. So, what about like if you're a chivalry, a knight who's a warrior, you're getting these archetypes from? They wanted safety too. I mean, they weren't out there just going wild. I mean, that would be adolescent marauders if they were just going wild for the wild's sake. And then if you get into the conquistadors, sometimes they were conquering for the sake of wild adventure and glory and wealth and so forth. But then a good version of a warrior would be fighting bravely for their village, but for the sake of stabilities, to come home, not to just fight dragons and goblins for the sake of it, but rather to come home, right? So how does that fit? I mean, I know what you're saying. We don't want stability, normalcy as the end all be all, but but we don't want to throw that out either, right? When we're talking about a masculine archetype, is not totally abandoning stability and normalcy. Everybody wants to have a stable home for their family and their friends and their neighborhood, right? They want their roads to be clean. They want crime to be down. They want wealth to be built and saved, right? Those are stable things, right?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things is that, we are too eager to approach uh, this this balancing of, stability and chaos in a very dialectical way. And what I mean by that is, when you emphasize the most dangerous aspect of the male spirit, people will instantly think, oh no, you are glorifying someone like a serial killer, or a mass murderer, or something like that. But I think we have to take into account that the extreme male energy, that our ability to be ruthless, chaotic, and all of that, is something that has been hijacked by Satan, into becoming a force for destruction. So, we need what Jesus does very well, is that he channels that extreme, tendency of the masculine, and he channels it into something that really changes the world for the better, changes the world, affirms life, and shows everyone why the normal functioning of society, which is hiding behind a system of violence, which is really the normal state of society wherever you want to look at in the world, is all of your maybe not all, but most of your comfort, most of your security, most of your comfortable existence comes from a really violent system, right? And what I mean by that is you can look at examples like okay, like where does your comfortable your border security and your comfort, where does all of that come from? That comes from the military industrial complex, who goes out and kills everyone and just uh, depends on your support to do that.
It doesn't
And
have
if
to
we talk
necessarily, but it doesn't have to necessarily depend on that, right? Like you could theoretically have a border that's secure without having a military industrial complex that goes off
Yes,
to
you can,
wars.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say is that you can have that, but you don't have that right now, right? So the extreme male aggressive spirit is hijacked by Satan. In another example, is hijacked by Satan in the form of war, right? So men want to be adventurous, let's say. Okay, so you said, and both of us agree that men want to be adventurous. They want to make a difference in the world. So how is that used misused by society? Is that they get sent off into war to butcher and slaughter large segments of populations, and that is equated, that is made equal to what is known as the male energy. So where is the Jordan Peterson that addresses that point, right? So when that's my kind of my emphasis is that we need to address this. We need to address the violence that comes out of the masculine, and we need to see how we can use the masculinity in a proper way, in a very self-sacrificial way, as Jesus did, rather than what the world and what Satan does, which is to use it for destruction. And for that to happen, we need to break out of the bubble. We need to break out of the bubble and rethink our paradigms, everything. We need to rethink our the male's role in society. And if we don't do that, if we just uh, stay domesticated, things will just continue as they are. You will continue to have foreign policy problems. You will continue to have gender problems. You will continue to have all of these problems if the men don't channel their aggressive energy towards the proper opponent, which is Satan, and not towards each other. And yeah.
One of the things that people misunderstand in pop culture is that testosterone is not associated with aggression. It's actually associated with being able to control your emotions. Did you know that? That if you have
Yeah,
a lot of times they falsely have caricaturized high testosterone with oh, that's what makes men explode with wrath. No, actually it's having low testosterone and high hormones related to the female side of things. When men have that, that's what makes them whiny and snappy and angry and aggressive, actually. And that's an example that when you say chaos, you don't mean chaos for chaos sake. You just mean the chaos of not being content with safe mediocrity.
exactly. Yes.
Just everything's fine. Let's not try anything bold, right? That's what you mean by that chaos.
Yeah, like not falling into stagnation, and not wanting to do anything, just going by what's already established, and not wanting to tamper with that.
In your article, you talk about the difference between risk. I always juxtapose the term safe mediocrity versus risky excellence, and that Jesus wants us to engage in risky excellence. But you talk about um, you know, um, we have safe technologies. They're always a reflection of the feminine desire for comfort and interaction without repercussions. Safe technologies like um, cell phones, I guess, right? You're talking about here.
Yeah.
What do you mean
So
by the feminine desire for comfort and interaction without repercussion? That's not necessarily a feminine desire, but you're saying, well, how do you associate that with femininity?
well, if you look at what women want in a relationship, women don't want to be put out there and put at risk. They want security, right? When they're looking for partners in dating or
You
marriage,
don't just
they
mean
don't want
physical security, you mean social security, right? In terms of like social
both,
status
both,
and yeah.
both. They want physical security as well. That's why their preference is for stronger men as opposed to weaker looking men, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean is that uh, that's why women would largely prefer that we all go along and stay just not wanting to argue, and they would say just stay you know what I mean, right? They prefer comfort, they prefer security. They don't want they're not they can't really handle uh, dangers and all of that. They would prefer not to be in that position, and that's how they are biologically determined to be. So when I say safe technology reflects feminine spirit, what I mean by that is these are technologies that focus on primary interaction, right? And they focus on being able to interact with everyone a lot, and they're also at the tip of your fingers. They're also very the means to this interaction, like cell phones or social media. They're right in front of us, and what happens through that is the men also get feminized in the sense that they also desire comfort, they desire safety, and they end up being in their homes. That's why you see a lot of men not really going out to, I mean, you see a lot of small kids, male boys, they don't want to go out anymore, and they don't want to play and all of that, because they have that technology in front of them which allows them to play games right at the tip of their fingers. And what they end up becoming, if they're not going out, is that they end up
Yeah.
becoming a lot like women.
Yeah.
And
Have you noticed, by the way, like the Gen Z aesthetic, as ugly as can be? I mean, like there's their whole aesthetic for streaming, that they do their programs through streams, and it came out of the video game, streaming world, right? A lot of them still use the same platforms like Twitch and stuff, but their graphics are ugly. The graphics they use are very ugly and garish, and they use sound effects like burr, 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 that little beep horn that they do in sporting events and wrestling, where they go burr, the fog horn or whatever that is. They do that sound effect whenever somebody says something that was a strong point, and they're very there's no sense of wonder or honesty. And I think that's because that generation has been more screen mediated than any other generation before, right? So there's no, because aesthetics, like you look at the great architecture, and those, like, to go to your point, those were men building these beautiful architecture, and they were
it was
inspired
not
by
just
women, obviously, in a lot of ways, but
well, it's not just that the men build them. It's like they always involved a risk. So if you wanted to build something like the Cathedral of Notre Dame, right, you making those huge spiral structures. Can you imagine how much the people who were building it were risking their lives? I mean, you can even look at the pyramids and all of that. I guess that's like a rare occasion, but even the like cathedrals in Western Europe, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, and the Eiffel Tower and all of that. So these were very dangerous undertaking, right? And they were built with the emphasis for people to go outdoors and see them, or walk around them or whatever. They weren't built with the emphasis of keeping people indoors and just ordering stuff from online and all of that. I mean, of course, convenience isn't a bad thing, but I think we have come to a point where convenience has taken the primary position of our preference. It has dominated our. That's why when you are talking about aesthetics, that's one of the biggest thing about art is that the more you put out, the more hard work you put out, the more it involves suffering, even at sometimes, the greater the masterpiece will be. But if you use something like AI and just type in a couple of codes into the computer and say, Siri, make me, or whatever, you chat GPT, make me a frame for my Zoom or OBS screen, then they're going to create the artificial intelligence is going to create something as banal, like generic as possible.
Let's talk about, okay, first of all, what about the idea that things, it's, we don't want to go too progressive or whatever, in the sense of saying, or you could say liberal, in saying change is always good. Obviously there are bad changes, but also we don't want to say that change is inevitable, like it has to be pursued, or does it? Because, for example, I was thinking of architecture. How do you get beautiful architecture again, grand cathedrals like we had before? How do you make something new? Like, who conceived of the Gothic style, and who conceived of these different styles that have remained amazing through the ages? And the stuff they're building today is horrendous. Modern architectures looks like usually like a fishbowl or fish tank. It's like glass, lots of glass and metal, and angular and very aggressive and offensive. You don't see sharp angles and stuff quite like that. In the natural world, leaves and stuff have fractal patterns and circles and things. But I guess there are angles on thorns and things, but you typically don't use it as beauty. But there's a lot of angular rigidity and glass hyper-modernity in architecture. And people are always trying to make movies that are cool based on taking an aesthetic from the past. And that some of that's nostalgia, but some of that's really just, there was more beauty back then. You look at Art Deco, people mentioned the Twitter logo was Art Deco that Elon Musk chose to go with, a futuristic Art Deco. You look at Blade Runner, it's, that same kind of thing, going to the past to get inspiration for the dystopian future. The hipsters try to wear, I don't know if they're still doing this, but they used to do the, mustaches like the 1950s, and suspenders and overalls and records, because they didn't want to be. And then now it's cassette tapes. You got to have your mixtape on a cassette tape like people would pass around in the 90s and 80s or whatever. So there's always trying to go back to something authentic from the past, but it doesn't have to be. How would architecture look new in the future and not look ugly? Can you make something new? What I'm saying is, can you make a new type of architecture inspired by beauty that will be absolutely beautiful and unlike any other, or completely not just, oh, well, that's a throwback to Art Deco, or that's a throwback to Gothic, or that's a throwback to that era?
Well, throwbacks is a very interesting question. Throwbacks are going to be there in one way or another, because even the old architectures were alluding to something that was in the past, whether it's the transcendent or whether it's something else. Like, a lot of people took inspiration from Egyptian architecture. That's why you see in these Freemasonic lodges a lot of Egyptian influences. A lot of if you roam around some of the major cities in India, and if you see the old British architectures, the British buildings, you will see a lot of Gothic architecture as well as Greco-Roman architecture. So in churches, they would often build these very Greco-Roman looking statues of British officers or British bureaucrats, who influenced the building of these churches and so on. The question, I think, is more of like, how do we use influences from the past effectively in a way that creates a refreshing, something that's very new. And I think, like, the balance that's often overlooked is the element of the transcendent uh, in these creative endeavors. Is that what happens? Like, I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, when the West has taken out God, and it has correlated with the emergence of modern art, like these yeah, quote unquote, avant-garde pieces, like sticking a banana, taping a banana on the wall, and all of that. The people in even in Enlightenment era Europe could not even imagine that. So, like, I think that has a lot of thing to do with how things have become ugly. Is the vanishing of God from a public discourse, or all space of discussion. But I think there is hope in that regards. Like, people are slowly seeing uh, this nihilism for what it is. And they are like, why do the hipsters dress in a very 1950s way, and use 1980s aesthetics, or all of that. Why do they do that? Is because they are craving for something from the past. And this current it's as if humanity instinctively knows that this comfortable life is very mediocre. And it's safe mediocrity, as you put it. Like, they know that it's completely, devoid of any meaning. And that's why they are retreating to something that can often be found in their childhood, or with VHS tapes and all of that. This retro kind of, aesthetic they are craving. That's like showing us how they are craving for the past. And they are craving for that, those going out there and adventuring, all of that aspect that came with the past. So yeah, the nostalgia, there's a reason why movies are pandering to their audiences with nostalgia. It's more deeper than they realize.
What is the with the with innovation, you always have the potential for, if you do real innovations, even let's say you did like the real innovations, like I always talk about with elemental transmutation at room temperature, creating rare earth elements from trash, having so-called anti-gravity transportation methods, low temperature nuclear energy for powering our cities with steam from nuclear type reactions at room temperature. Whether it's that or cures for these big debilitating diseases that are harming our families at a mass scale. The argument that a lot of Christians make in traditionalist circles is that, well, that's not really the goal. The goal is holiness. And that's kind of like juxtaposed against this kind of ego-like drive to fix problems. That's a utopian dream world deceit. They were kind of make you feel that way. And then there's always the issue of, on top of that, like you were saying, that, people get decadent societies where there's comfort, and that's what loses their masculine drive to do something big and different and special for people, and to lay their life down to do it. With those let's say we get those radical real technologies as opposed to safe technologies. People say, well, then we'll be even more comfortable. How will you stop men from being even super demoralized and women being super demoralized about the future when they've achieved cures for all these chronic illnesses that we've had pop over the last century? And we solve energy with energy that you don't have to meter. And we have transportation that you can get around the globe in 5 seconds, maybe. What would that do to further enhance our decadent boredness and mediocrity that we would cling to because everything's so abundantly easier? You don't have to
Yeah, I
journey.
think
I mean, right now you have to travel how many hours to get across the globe on a plane? That's a great decadent difference from going on a sailboat that would cost you months and months, high seas, octopus grabbing your sails and trying to eat you alive. All the things that you hear about from the swashbuckling tales of the explorers. Now you just get on a plane, go to sleep with your iPhone and watch movies. But imagine if you can get around the globe in 5 seconds. How you know what I mean? Or you can cure cancers tomorrow with all those. I mean, we have to pursue those things, and I have my own arguments, but I just want to know what you think about that sentiment that you're saying the problem in some senses men are too spoiled by past conquerings, right? Some man risked his life and created a sewage system that got perfected so well. Some man risked his life and figured out how to fly a plane, and now we have a plane. And we figured out different things, air conditioning, so that you can go in super hot areas and not faint from the heat strokes. But what happens when everything is taken care of even more so than now with technology breakthroughs?
I don't think technology is the primary aim of technology should be to make anyone comfortable. Even if you talk about air, flight travel, there's an element of risk in that too. So like I think there's recently been a plane crash somewhere. So there's a lot of hard work that goes into making a flight travel possible, right? So it's not. I don't think traveling by an airplane is the same as pulling up YouTube and seeing someone walk through the streets of Tokyo and looking into the streets of Tokyo with a GoPro camera. Those are the two are entirely different things. So I
You're
think there's
saying
a primary
there's
distinction
still
there.
more. You're saying there's still a lot of risk involved with taking the chance to fly on a plane and go over there.
Yes, there's monetary risk, there's physical risk, there's the chance that your life may completely cease to exist. So
Strange
there's that, and
culture. You could do something wrong and get arrested in Japan's notoriously difficult prison system.
yeah, when you that's a good point. When you see a culture, when you see Japan through
Yeah,
the screen of a smartphone,
yeah.
you're not really experiencing Japan. You're just seeing what it looks like, but you're not interacting with the
Just
people.
like
You're
folks
not
that want to
interact.
come to America, they see what it's like, and then they come over to America and start a convenience store, and then a guy steals their stuff, and they take out those rods and
Right.
start hitting them like those recent folks did. That now they're being investigated. They're Sikhs, I think, and
Yeah.
they had a convenience store, and this guy was stealing their stuff, and they took out a rod of justice and started spanking him, and now they're under criminal investigation. So the postcard of America they saw on wherever YouTube didn't turn out to be quite, because they messed with the gods of the religion of deifying degenerate behavior because one does not want to, attack people who are able to have deified victim statuses because uh, the government elites say they can. So um, yeah, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like you don't want to mess with Sikhs, oh boy. So yeah, I mean, like people when people get right? For example, you see this all like the example that you just gave. People the one who was robbing that store needed to know, like, okay, this is not a white person's grocery store. So there's an element of risk there, but he couldn't know that because he is not exposed to that other side of the culture. And likewise, the person who was even hitting that robber is not exposed to how law justice works in America,
Or
because you
George
can't take it on
Soros
your hands.
district attorneys. Yeah, they didn't understand what George Soros
Well,
district
I mean,
attorneys are going to face.
even if you take out the George Soros and all of that aspect, I mean, you can't really use excessive. You can't just kill a person and just you can restrain him, right? But you're still going to be, put behind bars because, okay, you did self-defense, but it's the way you did self-defense. You literally tried to ruin that guy's you tried to make that guy not being able to walk for the rest of his life and all of that. I'm not saying it's wrong, right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's a part of the culture in the West, right? That's why you guys have some things like police brutality and all of that, right? Like everywhere else, police can literally kick the shit out of you, and it's completely within the norm of the culture to do that, even in the norm of the the justice system. But in America, you can't put a finger on a perp until he's proven guilty. Even after he's proven guilty, you can't abuse him. You can't physically torture him or anything like that.
At least in
So
theory,
that's,
but yeah.
I mean, of course, yeah, of course. Like, I'm not speaking for the entirety of it. I'm just generalizing here. So, yeah, I mean, the point is that a good technology, in my opinion, a good innovation is able to make you not only see the world in a microscopic way, but also experience it in a very macro level. In the sense that you can talk to people, you can learn different languages, you can learn different cultures, you can draw comparisons, and as a result, you can be even more grateful for the luxuries that exist from where you hail from. So that is going to make you much more grateful towards life, as opposed to, if you're locked up in a house, if you're locked up in a place and you're not interacting with people. And we talked about this in the case of demonic possession, is that isolation is a very key part of what drives insanity, isolation, alienation. So if you're inside a safe space, then the chances are more likely that you'll become a threat to society. You won't know how to deal with people. You won't know how to deal with different kinds of.
So what about but what I'm saying is, like, suppose we get all these anti-gravity and cures for all the diseases. How many people have gotten to know God because they have cancer?
Well, I mean, even if
how
you,
many
let's
people
say,
have gotten to know God because of the pain and suffering of diseases afflicting them or their loved ones? How many people have gotten to know God because of the difficulty of saving money and hard life, making them humble and having the more humility and patience and holiness? So if we eliminate the scarcity of energy, and we eliminate the scarcity of travel and transportation, and we eliminate the scarcity of so many different things, the question that conservative traditionalist types always push at people that suggest these things is that, well, they don't say it that way, but they're basically saying you're going to eliminate people's means by which they can become humble, good people to do great things. They'll just be bored, lazy, and apathetic and spoiled. Look at America, right? It's very easy to say America is spoiled, but America is not just spoiled because of smartphones, right? America is spoiled because it has long had a leg up on the infrastructure technology, right? Of medical care, of transportation, of energy, of cars being, the structures that kind of like, it's not just like Americans became decadent as soon as they got smartphones and TV. No, the decadence has been a long relative leg up in terms of resources to devote to these revolutionary technologies, like the automobile industry and things like that. So how do you prevent the Americanification of the whole world, including America, if we get leveled up on all those other things where we don't have to pump gas, and you could come to Japan in 5 seconds and you don't have to worry about cancer because it's been completely eliminated for inexpensive solutions. How do you keep holiness going?
Well, I would come back to that distinction. A good technology will always make you experience the world outside. And when you talked about zero gravity, is the existence of zero gravity going to infantilize people? I don't think so, because zero gravity is in the world of atoms, right? It's not in the world of digital space where you're coddled inside a physical, like a pod or something, like the people in the World Economic Forum wants us to be. They want us to be isolated in a pod, and live in 15-minute cities where we don't have to travel the world. But if you have zero gravity, you can drop in the right now, and we could have this conversation face to face, as opposed to just on the screen. So
But then,
wouldn't
but
that
then
be
we'll
much
be in a
more
state
better?
of, but then we'll be in a state of hyper undifferentiation, which could lead to even more conflict, right?
Uh, uh,
Possibly. I'm just playing out the
uh,
devil's advocate of these scenarios that we want, because we want these things. We should want these things. But if we're undifferentiated with spatial boundaries still maintains a lot of differentiation. But if everybody can get anywhere pretty much without much time or anything, that's going to hyper undifferentiate the whole world. We'll all
well, I
become
mean,
next door neighbors theoretically.
well, is that really a bad thing? Like, there are two kinds of undifferentiation. One is the undifferentiation towards just losing your humanity, and the other is the undifferentiation towards the universality of God's creation.
Well,
So that's
but it's
why
it's
you when
it's our
you
attitudes that change the difference, right? Because when you
right.
can theoretically be anywhere else, then the distinctions will create more opportunity for hyper competitiveness and therefore hyper envy and hyper jealousies, right? Because once anybody can go anywhere else and anybody can have a home, that, like, if everybody can have a mansion that's really nicely well made, now we're going to have finite little minuscule details to fight and squabble over, right? Incessant dramas, right? That's what everybody always says, right? That, oh, if we had everything, we'd be fighting endlessly, because that's what humans do. We're dramatic, drama queen people, and we're always going to come up with something to be hating on each other. So how do we bring those technologies in a way that comes with righteousness equipped with it, and egolessness, you
How
know?
how do we create technology that comes with righteousness?
Not that the technology has to have righteousness, but the way in which it's manifested comes with a culture of righteousness with it, so that it doesn't produce decadent, lazy, drama, envy driven, jealousy, competitive, hyper individuals.
Well, first we have to get this notion out of the way that technology is inherently evil, right? We have to recognize that what Jesus created is a kind of technology. And by what I mean by that is, he provided the principle, at least, for creating good technology. And it can be seen in his lifetime, which is the healing of the leper, the giving eyesight to the blind, and
Catching lots of
all of that,
fish,
catching lots of fish, and all of that.
eating the
So
five
that's a
thousand with
very,
5 loaves. That's very technology.
yeah. And those two are great examples of technology that don't seek to comfort. So when Jesus multiplied the fish in the water, the fishermen, his disciples, could not even so was so much fish, they could not pull all of those fish into the boat. The net broke. And when Jesus multiplied the loaves of bread, the same thing happened. You have to go through the crowd and just spend extra energy into distributing the food, right? So it's not necessarily all comfort. It's there's even added extra hard work along with those technologies. So those science and technologies, with those science and technologies came extra effort, right? So that, I think, that's a very good uh, foundation of what our innovation should be geared towards, is that we shouldn't be making things that do not multiply our hard work. We should be making things that make us work even more harder. And not that people want to work hard for hardness' sake, but it makes us learn new things. And with those extra labor, with those insights we get from working with the new technologies, we create more technologies on top of that, right? So if we are a good sign of stagnation is that you don't want to work anymore. This is the end all and be all. But a good sign of a good technology will make you want to progress much more, even more.
Well, very
And
good.
you said,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry, you said like how do we create in a technology that creates a righteous society? Correct?
Yeah, well, not the technology creates it, but it's created in a way that has righteousness
Okay.
attached to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, again, I would point to Jesus and his principle of self-sacrifice, which is a very dangerous thing. It's not something which is safe. It's literally giving up your life for your friends. So that's totally opposite to the comfort, the the high value thing for that comes from the manosphere. That's completely opposite to that. It exists to like Jesus's life is an example that makes you give your life for others. And that's part of the dangerous aspect that comes with creativity. It's dangerous because you are giving your life for others in the hope that you will make the lives of others better through technology.
Well, very good. Let's leave it there. Thank you for your time, and check out the article on a neighborschoice.com. That's a neighborschoice.com by Surit, and give us your thoughts by emailing us hello at a neighborschoice.com. That's hello at a neighborschoice.com. Thanks and Godspeed.